Okay, so WalkMe, you recently published your fifth annual State of Digital Adoption report. Perhaps you can just give us a sort of high-level view as to what it reveals and how it compares maybe to previous reports, etc. What are the key findings?
Sure. We actually call this internally SODA, the State of Digital Adoption Report. And as you said, it's been running for 6 years now. This is the fifth report that we've generated. Every year we go out and survey executives and office workers at enterprise organizations. And the idea is to figure out what's actually happening when technology meets the real world. So this year we spoke to close to 4,000 people, 1,700 senior leaders, and a little over 2,000 office workers, all at companies with thousands or more of employees and across industries, across geographies. And I think the interesting thing this year is really the shift in the question. A year ago, organizations or everyone wanted to really know how to deploy AI. And this year it kind of shifted more into why isn't it working? Why aren't we seeing the expected ROI from it?
Yeah, and maybe to that point, one of the sort of findings that I noted in particular was the just over half of employees are seem to be actively bypassing AI tools. So I guess that, to your point, hints there's a problem somewhere. But so what is it in terms of that gap between AI deployment and real world usability, if you like?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of many things. This is a very powerful technology, but it's not very different than many other kind of waves of evolution of technology that we've experienced in the enterprise, right? So whether it's cloud migration or SaaS with AI, it's just a new way of working. And when you have different types of generations in the workplace and you have resistance to change and you have just, people kind of being creatures of habit, a lot of that has to do with like, how do I change the way I work now? I think second of all is some organizations aren't providing the best tool for the job in many places, and then what you would see is employees actually bringing in their own kind of shadow AI tools, right? So if the company doesn't provide the tool that I need to do to get my job done, I'm gonna figure out a way to do it regardless. And then there's all this compliance issue and kind of shadow AI, shadow IT, issues that you need to deal with IT. But then lastly, I think it comes down to this hype or really high expectations that we had from this technology. And then when we try to apply it to our real workflows, it just doesn't deliver what's on the cover of the book, right? So I think the models are great, but not all of them are uh, wired in an efficient way into our enterprise workflows yet.
Okay, and there seems to be quite a significant, I think, was it 52-point trust gap between the executives and the employees when it comes to AI decision making. Does the report say, or do you yourself sort of anecdotally have any thoughts as to why trust seems to be lagging so far behind the investment?
Look, it's not that the executives are disconnected or careless. They're just seeing the systems from a different altitude, right? When you see it from the top, it's a technical readiness question. We bought in best-in-class tools. They're integrated. They're live. From the desks, from the desk, it looks a little bit different. And the thing that actually is going to help me to do my job today without slowing down is not necessarily the tool that the company provided to me. Again, there's a learning curve, and maybe there's just not the right fit for the job. So the widest gap we measured is on tool adequacy. 88% of executives think that their employees actually had the tools that they need to do the job well. But when we asked the workers, only 21% of them agreed on that. So that's a big gap. That's a 67 point gap that we saw. And there's also that trust gap that you mentioned. 9% of workers trust AI for complex business critical decisions. But when you ask the executives, 61% of them trust it. So that's a 52% point gap. And it has to do with the workers actually knowing what would help them with their specific tasks. And honestly, if any of this sounds familiar, like I said, it should. This is the same productivity paradox all over again. Robert Salo said 40 years ago, I think, you can see the computers everywhere except in the productivity statistics. So we saw it with ERP in the 90s, we saw it with cloud, we saw it with mobile, and I think now it's just we're just seeing it again with AI. So the pattern kind of keeps repeating because companies keep buying platforms, tweaking processes, but they skip the people component, the people part of it.
So yeah, maybe that's the answer to this next one, but I'll ask anyway that the research reveals that workers are losing 51 days a year to technology friction, I think as you describe it. So how do have we reached this point where more technology is actually reducing productivity? What's going on? As you say, is it because the execs think they're doing the right thing, but there's a disjoint for the actual workers when they come to use those solutions? Yeah, or yeah, what's happening?
Yeah, I think, we've all been there, right? You try to prompt the tool, it lacks the context, it doesn't really know who you are or what you're trying to do, or and I can give you a quick example, right? Let's say I'm a manager and I want to give a spot bonus to one of my employees, right? So I say, let's give Philip a $2,000 spot bonus. Great. Is it Philip from your UK team or from your US team? Is it Philip? When did Philip last get a spot bonus? How much are you eligible? Like, how much can I give Philip? Right. So the AI doesn't always have all of these answers because it's not necessarily connected to your business logic or business other systems that hold this business logic. And on top of that, you have workflows that span multiple applications. And often the AI that I'm trying to interact with only lives within one system, right? It could be Microsoft or it could be Salesforce, but it doesn't have that kind of full breadth of the workflows. And so what happens is that we prompt it time and time again. Sometimes it hallucinates, hence the reliability issue, right? But then what happens is that you just lose time instead of doing it yourself. Some employees ditch the process midway through the process. Others just give up and never come back and use it again. And, consequentially, you lose time and friction to that.
And I believe your CEO, Dan Adika, he says that the issue isn't AI capability, but it is this human side, which you've referenced.
Mhm.
So are there some practical steps that organizations can take to sort of close that human gap, that human disjoint?
So I mentioned that the first thing that organizations can do is to stop trying to turn every employee into an AI expert and essentially try to meet the workers where they actually are. We spoke about like the different generations in the workplace, different levels of digital dexterity, resistance to change, et cetera. So in order to make sure that you're realizing the investments, your AI investments, AI should actually live inside the workflow, right? And not try to force them to go and learn something new. The second one is, I think, is a very important one, and that's context. We touched that earlier. If an AI tool can't see what's on someone's screen, if it can't move across the systems that the employee actually works in, if it can't take action on behalf of the employee and actually get the work done, it's just going to underdeliver, right? Don't forget, we're not talking about commercial use of AI like you would search Gemini or Claude or something. This is actually, an AI workflow that is supposed to deliver business impact. So, the third thing is basically a broader shift, I think, that we're starting to feel. We're moving out of the kind of deployment era and what we define as an accountability era. And the report covers that extensively. And that's kind of really trying to have a mechanism in place to see if you are realizing the value, right? How do you measure? How do you know what needles you're supposed to move? How do you know that you were actually able to deliver on those goals? And how do you measure what good looks like? So I think now companies are starting to see that and think about that. And in the survey, we noticed that only 54% of executives can actually show their AI investments to their board or to their CEO. And I think that is something that everyone should really think about and care about.
Okay, and the survey also highlights that I think just under half of employees are using the shadow AI tools, which you mentioned earlier, and a lot of them are doing so with confidential data. So is it fair to say that organizations need to, if they haven't already done so, rethink their approach to governance and control? I guess back in there was a BYOD would cause a lot of stress for people, and now
Yeah.
we've got the same happening here. Just your thoughts as to what needs to happen.
So again, I think it's a combination of bringing IT and the business together and talking about these things. The reason that employees, and I don't like the term shadow AI or shadow IT. I like to refer to it more as like business-led AI or business-led IT. And the reason is people are going to bring the tools into the work that actually helps them get their job done more efficiently, right? And it's super easy today. All you need to do is pull out a credit card and you pay $20 a month and you get access to the most capable, model in the market today. And if my organization, if my company doesn't provide that tool, I'm going to find a way to do it on my own. So I think the first thing is, you got to get together, business and IT, and hear the folks understand what are they trying to get done, what are the bottlenecks, what can they do with the tools that are being provided by the enterprise or the company, and figure out a way. Maybe it's just lack of knowledge or a little bit more transparency. But if there is a tool that can genuinely deliver a better outcome, IT should listen up and figure out a way to make it happen. And I can give you a quick example. In the past, in the early days of kind of the AI adoption era, it used to take us sometimes months, weeks, or months to get a tool approved. But the more impact a tool delivers, such as Claude Code after the Opus 4.6 model came out, the value was much more powerful and immediate. So our IT organization and our security teams kind of shortened the time that it took them to review and approve these tools because the business impact was clear and was significant. And I'll just give you another. We talked about how this is just another wave of technology. Back in the days when social media started, right? You probably heard the sentence, if the product is free, you're probably the product. And the reason we were so, fast to give these social media tools our data was because of the benefit, the value that we received from those platforms, connecting with peers, connecting with all friends from college. It was fun. It was so I wouldn't care. I didn't care to give my credentials in order to get that information. Today, I think a lot of that is happening again with AI. Companies need to move fast. They need to win this kind of competitive arms race with AI. They need to deliver and ship better products faster. So IT, at least from my observation, IT and security tend to be a little bit more kind of willing to provide these tools. So the first thing is understand the business need, get together with your line of business and understand what they need and provide those tools for them. The second thing is, yes, and you touched that, Philip, about the guardrails and security. It's not that employees want to kind of, do bad to be bad or provide or do wrong with the business. It's just that they don't know. So think about this as the bowling alley framework. If you provide in-app guidance to your employees and say, hey, don't forget, you're not supposed to, upload that earnings report before it was published, or you're not supposed to expose the code base to everyone in the world, right? So if you can do some of the in-app messaging and in-app guidance for employees and just, put those kind of guardrails for them, I think that helps a lot. And lastly, it's about providing a right mechanism to orchestrate a lot of the tools that you have, integrating them properly via APIs, MCPs, or even UI automation, but in a formal approach instead of letting the employee actually hack their way to the result.
So, to sort of summarize, what you're saying is, if people are going outside of the organization to sort of meet their AI needs, that's not sort of a shouldn't necessarily be a punish, an offence that's punished, but a sort of flag that the company can't provide that, so something needs to change to better
Correct.
empower the employees. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think they're trying to sabotage, right? We're here, we're company employees, we all work towards, a mutual goal. So I don't have any intent to sabotage my company's, IP or risk them in any way, shape, or form. I'm just trying to do my job, to the best possible way. So if an IT organization identifies a certain type of behavior, instead of punishing people for that, I think they should sit down and understand. And I can give you a quick example again. I got a call from my CIO office a few days ago and saying, hey, you're burning through, a lot of Claude tokens. what's going on with that? Like you're at the top level of the company. We need to understand what are you doing with it. So instead of shutting me down and saying no more tokens for you,
Mm.
right? In this whole 2026 token economy, my CIO office reached out and said, "Hey, we want to set up a meeting to understand how you're using Claude, and maybe we can learn from that and either make your work more efficient, or maybe you're doing something great and we need to teach others how to do it, you know?"
Yeah, and I guess that I've seen the reports full of lots of gloom, but another sort of slightly depressing statistic seems to be that 40% of digital investment is underperforming. I think you identified, which is quite a significant amount. So, are there things did the report uncover what organizations are getting wrong when it comes to sort of ROI on AI and the other digital tools that they're using?
Yeah, I think many organizations kind of equate logins to a system to usage, right? So if people are logging into my tool, great, it's being used, and that's what they report to the board, and we see all these kind of green check marks. It's great. We deploy this new tool, people are using it, but there's significant difference between logins and actual utilization of a platform. So, what are people doing once they log into these systems? And most organizations don't have a real way or real visibility into these systems to understand what is the behavior, what is the work that's being done in these systems, and that's I think the first thing that is challenging most organizations. They don't have that mechanism in place. So, if you can't really manage what you can't see. I think the second part is a lot of kind of overlap and duplicity between the different tools. When different departments buy different tools, sometimes they have overlapping capability. So there's a lot of redundancy. And I think we're going to see more and more consolidation in the AI era, especially when organizations can build their own productivity tools. And I think lastly, we're seeing kind of a shift from a seat-based SaaS economy to more of a consumption-based. And I think today there's this mandate for at least, from CEOs and companies that I've heard and worked with, there's a mandate that, an employee using AI should provide 10x more output from their work. And how do you measure that? If an employee can do 10x more work, it's no longer about how many seats a SaaS vendor sells, but it's more about the consumption of AI and the output of that work. So I think that's kind of negatively impacting the ROI calculation today, and we'll see a shift in that to more consumption-based calculations.
And maybe just in finishing up, clearly AI is here to stay, and it's going to become. We're already moving to agentic AI, and I'm sure there are further iterations to come. So, do you think that I suppose that I say it's not a gloomy picture, but obviously there's things that need addressing. Are you confident that, for example, the disconnect between the leadership and the employees' sort of experience of AI and other things will be addressed, or do you worry that because of the pace in AI and companies haven't got to grips with it, it's just going to get more and more chaotic the more and more AI they try to introduce? Just your thoughts, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to predict how enterprise is going to look like. AI is really disrupting business models and how we work, and it's also disrupting organization charts, right? CIOs today, if we used to think about like the traditional CIO versus the transformational CIO, I think many IT organizations are just not equipped to deal with the pace of change today. And that's going to force a fundamentally shift in how organizations run their IT tech stack and SaaS applications and agentic AI workflows, et cetera. And I think at some point we're going to see organizations change from a kind of CIO-led IT organizations to more of an AI architect or AI ops leader model, where you'd have someone who's really knowledgeable about how to leverage these tools and know how to deploy that and run the automations across the company. And that doesn't necessarily need to be a senior IT leader. That can be just someone who's really good in understanding how these large language models work and how an agentic AI framework should be deployed, et cetera. And I think we'll see more and more shifts towards that and almost into a state of autonomous IT organizations where it's not run by human beings, but actually by AI agents. And when I say agents, I don't mean like, the prompting and it can do something for you. I'm talking about real AI models that have agency to take action based on company policy, based on, different procedures that were coded into them, and then take the next best action for the organization to maximize profit, to maximize customer experiences, et cetera.
And in terms of where end users are, I'm sure there's a fairly wide spectrum there. But for the folks that are, I guess every company thinks we've got to get into AI, we've got to use it because we're going to get left behind. Is that happening already, or is it, still plenty of time, or at least time enough for companies to get their AI act together, if you like, so they don't get left behind?
So I think it's the same story that we've seen again with digital transformation. You're going to have the early adopters and the late majority and the laggards, et cetera. But what we are seeing and what the report surfaces is this notion of almost the elite adopters, right? We're seeing a very small cohort of organizations that are embracing or are thinking about adoption in a more mature way. And when they start thinking about setting those guardrails and supporting employees in the flow of work and thinking about orchestrating and integrating the tools together and gaining visibility into workflows and being able to measure what we talked about, like what does good look like and ROI, et cetera. So we see that that small group is actually able to create significantly better ROI out of their AI investments. And so I'm hoping that that cohort will increase and more organizations will understand that they need an adoption strategy. They need a way to gain visibility, act across systems, integrate these tools together, and then act on behalf of the user in a more efficient and reliable way. And hopefully that cohort will increase to double digits, if not more.
And maybe finally, yourselves, where do you fit in this landscape? What is it that you're bringing to the table to help folks get to grips with this AI landscape that everyone's trying to
Sure.
address?
So I think WalkMe specifically, we've been around for over 13 years now, and we helped our customers go through many technology changes, right? Whether it was mobile and cloud and ERP migrations, et cetera. And like I said, what we're experiencing now is another wave of innovation coming from technology. And we're definitely working with the world's largest organizations now to help them gain visibility, set those guardrails, automate workflows. We have a really cool set of technologies, if I might say, that help make AI accessible and democratize it for employees. Because, like I said, not everyone knows what tools to use or where to get them or has the knowledge to use them. So, what we do is we surface it for the employee and make it seamless within their workflow. So, if I'm in a system like my Gmail inbox or my Outlook inbox, we help bring AI to you. Instead of you having to go and search which AI tool your company uses, we surface it on top of your application and we help you with the cross-app workflows. We help you gain visibility and we help you execute those tasks for you. And I think that is a mindset that more and more organizations need to kind of embrace and understand instead of asking people to figure out what is available. Just surface it for them in the flow of work, and it makes a much more impact. It makes much more impact on their actual outcomes.
And I'm sorry, I keep asking you final questions and then one more, but in terms of this way, because you say, it's another, I know what saying you're saying just another, but you've explained all the other sort of technology moments in time, if you like. So people talk about AI as if it's completely off the charts compared to anything that's come before it. I mean, is that right, or is it, as you say, more just look at it? We had cloud, we got virtualization. There's all these things, the mobile. So it's another one of those. So don't sort of panic because it's you've done it before, or is it a sort of something so different that people do need to be a little bit
Yeah.
not wary, but understand that it is a different from what's happened before.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the predictions out there, there's this dystopian outcome from AI. We're all going to lose our jobs, and AI is going to replace us all. And then there's the more kind of utopian point of view, where I think that AI will genuinely create more job opportunities and new functions will rise. And I think, yes, AI models are becoming more capable and smarter, and they might be able to do a lot of the mundane tasks and the repetitive things, and maybe things that we don't do today and can really expand the business, right? But at the end of the day, for the foreseeable future, I still see humans in the loop. And if there's one thing that I leave the audience with is that AI adoption is not really an AI problem, right? It's more of an execution problem. So I think companies need to focus on the execution now, help AI understand humans better and help humans understand AI better. And once you do that and you bridge that gap, everything becomes easier. So I'm more on the kind of I see things through the my pink glasses. I think humans are still going to be here for the foreseeable future, embedded in work. I don't see all of these SaaS applications being replaced overnight. There's still some organizations that are on-prem, haven't even migrated to the cloud yet, right? A decade or more since we started that cloud migration. So I don't think every company will become an agentic company and throw out 90% of their workforce yet. So, like I said, for the foreseeable future, humans are here and they're still an important component of your workflows. So you need to think about bridging that gap between the new AI technology and the human component and making them work more reliably and more efficiently together.
Excellent. I mean, it's been fantastic to chat, and thank you so much for sharing so many great insights into this fast-moving AI landscape that we're all involved in. Ofir, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a good one.